What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. Today is Thursday, January 19th. My name is Will. Joining me is my co-host, Eric. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be transitioning from the redraft season finally into our dynasty off season. I'm really looking forward to a lot of this and the video that we got today.
Hell yeah. And the video that we got today, Eric alluded to a little bit. We're going to be talking Dynasty, but we're going to be talking trade targets. Now that we're in that off season, at least for Dynasty, of course. Regular, they're still going regular football, but we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about just off-season targets and just different players that you should be targeting and just should be taking an extra look at right now that we're in that part of the season. So we're going to kick this off with this.
Specifically, I don't know if you're about to say it, so sorry for cutting you off. But at
Mhm.
the quarterback and tight end position, and we'll have another video come out shortly for the wide receivers and running backs.
Yeah, just get those video run times down for you guys a little bit. Try to optimize this a little bit.
You
So
know, yeah.
we're going to start this off with the quarterback position, and we're going to start this off with the quarterbacks that we feel like you should acquire, that you must acquire, the most important people to go after. And starting that off is Mr. Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to go ahead and let Eric take this one away.
Yeah, so a lot of the value that we're going to be looking coming from the site called Keep Trade Cut. If you're not familiar with it, it's a kind of market-based like value system for all of these players in Dynasty. So you get kind of a pulse of what the market, what the Dynasty community feels about a player. And right now, Lamar Jackson is listed as the quarterback 7, which I think is just way too low. He's below Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence. And like you can make the argument for some of those guys, but let's get into Lamar specifically. So I think he's being heavily discounted because of what we've seen from him the past 2 years. His overall fantasy finish this year was quarterback 14, and last year was quarterback 16. And he's dealt with some injuries that have led him to miss nine games over the past 2 seasons. But I'm not worried that he's injury prone. The injuries that he's had haven't been repeat injuries to the same parts of the body, so I don't think it's indicative of any future injury. I'm not worried about that aspect. And then also, if you look at points per game compared to his overall finish, he's finished as the quarterback 5 and the quarterback 8 the past 2 years. So, for one, he's performed much better than I think a lot of people realize in recent years. And two, his upside is just so much higher than anybody else at the position. Like I just named those guys, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence above him. Because of his rushing floor and the passing upside that we've seen from him before, his upside is just way higher than those guys. And it's not unrealized upside either. Like we've seen him do it. In 2019, he put up the greatest fantasy season of all time, scoring over 400 total points and averaging 28 points per game.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's just one of those guys. He's a special talent. He's also been on a team who hasn't really valued the wide receiver position a whole lot, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, either. So the fact that he has been performing at this level with not a whole lot to work with should indicate that there's a lot of good coming for Lamar Jackson in the future.
Whether he stays with the team or moves on, which is a possibility, but we won't get too much into speculation. We'll see what happens there in the offseason.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we're going to move over to our quarterbacks that we think are good buys, not exactly must acquires like Lamar, but still people that we think are good investments and good people that you should look into. And to kick off that list, we're actually starting with Mr. Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, so he's listed as the quarterback 9 on Keep Trade Cut. Again, I think he's just valued too low. It's a really similar story to Lamar, actually, where the consensus opinion on him is that his past 2 years have been pretty disappointing. Kyler finished as the quarterback 18 and the quarterback 10 during that span. They both missed time due to injury. Kyler missed 8 games over the past 2 seasons. But again, if you look at points per game, Kyler finished as the quarterback 9 and the quarterback 4 the past 2 seasons. So again, playing much better, in my opinion, than what the kind of public outlook is on him. And again, also his injuries haven't been to repeated parts of the body either, so they shouldn't be predictive going forward. I'm not worried about that. But then, as far as positive things for Kyler in the future, or potentially, is the head coaching change. Cliff Kingsbury was not it, dude. He was a fake sharp. He was tanking the Cardinals' offense. And so hopefully with this new coaching staff and the new GM, because I think their GM was kind of holding back their roster
Mhm.
building ability, that offense will improve and Kyler will be able to thrive.
Yeah, it's just Kyler, I feel like, hasn't been in the best position himself lately, just in terms of how he's been relating with the team, how he's been relating with the front office, how he's been relating with the coaching staff. He just hasn't really
Yeah.
been getting along with anybody over there as of late. And I feel like with this whole new regime that's sort of coming in, they're going to sort of value Kyler a little bit more. give him the things that he needs to really grow and be the quarterback that they know he can be, that they invested in. So, yeah, good news ahead for Kyler Murray as well.
100%.
And then next up on the list that we got for the goodbyes, we got the tickler himself, Mr. Groper Cleveland, DeSean Watson.
Yeah, so this one is gross. I feel bad advertising this to the fantasy community. And by all means, if you don't want to root for him, I don't want to root for him.
I don't
You don't
either.
need to trade for him. I don't know if this is a move that I would want to make, just because, again, I don't know if I want to be rooting for the guy on my fantasy team. But this is a game that we're all playing. We're just trying to score points. If you're not as worried about that, I'm not going to judge you. What we're here for is to maximize fantasy value. And right now, DeSean Watson on Keep Trade Cut is listed as the quarterback 11. And so a good follow on Twitter. If you don't follow him already, you should. Shout out to David Gautieri. I hope I'm pronouncing that right on Twitter. He kind of highlighted this one for me. He says that DeSean Watson is a dynasty buy. He's discounted for being a scumbag, which we already stated. That is the truth. It's gross, but he's only 27 years old and he's locked in long term with the team. He's got a 5-year, $230 million deal. He's not going anywhere. Also, as far as like reasoning for why he hasn't performed this season, he missed almost 2 full seasons and then was thrown in the middle of this one without having been able to practice with the team literally until like the week before he got the start. So it's just really hard to kind of gel with your guys at the most important position in all of football midway through a season. So that I think that explains away a lot of the rust. And also, we have to remember just how good DeSean Watson was the last time that we saw him at full strength. A few years ago, it was him and Mahomes that were like the next quarterbacks up to be in that GOAT conversation. They were the 2 young up and coming quarterbacks that everybody wanted to build their franchise around and their dynasty teams around.
Yeah, and just to add on a little bit to what Eric was saying earlier with how you morally stand on the player that is DeSean Watson. Again, I'm on the side of I'm not really rooting for him, but at the end of the day, it is impossible to think that no one in your league is going to have DeSean Watson. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
if someone in your league is going to have him, it might as well be you. You know what I'm saying? You should try to get some value out of these players while they're here. He is a good player. Morally, he's not a good person whatsoever. But at the end of the day, someone's going to use him in your league. So it might as well be you.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point.
And then next up to round out this list for the goodbyes, we got Mr. Trey Lance of the San Francisco 49ers, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, so all of these are risky, especially in the goodbye category. None of these come without risk. I think Trey Lance most of all, but also I think the upside is there to kind of counteract that. I have listed on here before we get into his full kind of pros and cons list is that he's listed in the same tier as Kenny Pickett on Keep Trade Cut, and I just think that's ridiculous, man. Kenny Pickett, I don't think he's ever going to be anything, right? And Trey Lance could be a literal 0 next season. I don't think that he will be, by the way. That's why he's on the buys list, but he could be, right? Within the range of outcomes, his upside is just so much higher.
I think the best thing Kenny Pickett brought to the game of football was the fake slide, and they took that away. So,
Yeah. No, facts. I don't know if I said it already, but Trey Lance is listed as the quarterback 13. But let's get into the pros and cons list. We'll start with the cons. He did suffer the fibula fracture as well as some ligament disruption in week 2 of this season. Then last month, he had another surgery on his ankle to remove a piece of hardware that was causing some irritation. So that's something to worry about a little bit just as far as recovery timetable. And then also Brock Purdy. He's performed well enough for some to suggest that he might take over as the starter next season. I don't think so, but we'll see. And then another con for him, timing and ball placement in the short and intermediate areas of the field are really important in San Francisco's offense. And those are areas that I think Lance needs to clean up and improve in his game. So that's part of the risks that we're taking. But again, here's the pros. The team investment in him was massive. We're talking about 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick. Like, teams don't just do that for anybody, and you don't just give up on those players. He has one of the best offensive minds in all of football as his head coach at Kyle Shanahan. So if anybody is going to maximize the value and the talent of a guy like Trey Lance, it would be Kyle Shanahan. If he is the starter next season, which again, I think that he will be, he'll have an amazing group of weapons around him to help him succeed. We're talking about Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. It's a ridiculous list of guys that I think anybody could succeed with. And then lastly, and maybe most importantly, he is by far the most talented quarterback on their roster, and it's not even close. Which leads me to believe that if Brock Purdy looks good in this offense, imagine how good it would look with Trey Lance. Like I get he needs to improve the accuracy in the intermediate and short game, but once he gets that, the running ability, the ability to extend outside the pocket, and the deep passing that you haven't seen from Jimmy G or Brock Purdy, it's
Hmm.
going to unlock new levels of this offense that we've never seen.
Yeah, I think people do get swept up in a lot of media narratives. Even I kind of joke about it sometimes, but in no world do I think that Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Trey Lance. Even the throws that Brock Purdy makes, they aren't really great throws. He just has some really good weapons around him. And a lot of people want to kind of attribute because going in the playoffs, I think the 49ers were on a 10-game winning streak, right? But a lot of that came because literally the week that Christian McCaffrey started starting for that team full time, that's when the win streak started. It wasn't before that, it wasn't after. It was as
Yep.
soon as he was slotted in as the full time running back, they started winning. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
that success is attributed to him, really more so from a coaching aspect than Brock Purdy. So
Yeah.
I think they
And
still believe in
also
Trey Lance.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And this isn't me shitting on Brock Purdy necessarily. Maybe compared to the public outlook, everybody's hyping him up way more than he deserves. But he is doing a fantastic
Hmm.
job, all things considered. The expectations for him coming in and the success of the team, he's doing a great job, but he's not Trey Lance.
Exactly. And then moving on, we have one more section for you guys, one more player for this section. It's the cheaper options, somebody that we think you could get for a pretty good discounted price. It's a little bit risky because we don't exactly know the situation, but it is a player that does have some potential, and that player is Mr. Mac Jones of the New England Patriots.
Yeah. He's listed as the quarterback 19 on Keep Trade Cut. And honestly, you mentioned it being risky. And like all of these guys, like I said, are
Hmm.
risky, but this one might be the least risk just because the amount that you'd have to give up to acquire him is so low. And I think with the type of player that he is, it should pay off even if he's not amazing. Um, but yeah, this one isn't exciting. We're talking about Mac Jones here. He's not going to turn into some crazy high value like top 5 quarterback. But my main argument is that he's young and that he's already showed us in his rookie year that he has the ability to be a good NFL quarterback. I think a large portion of the blame for his struggles this year can be attributed to the absolutely horrendous combination of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge that were his offensive coordinator. By the way, neither of them had any offensive play calling experience coming into this season, so I don't know why they were given that role jointly. Didn't make any sense. So that kind of gives you a look into why Mac Jones struggled. Um, but also, I just think that Mac is going to have longevity in this league, and I think that he could easily turn into somebody like a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr, which again, not exciting, but a very valuable asset in superflex leagues.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Mac Jones, a lot of people kind of wrote him off this year with the whole Bailey Zappi thing and all this and that. But at the end of the day, the person that got the start for this team was Mac Jones. Once he was healthy enough and once they, started to slot him back in there. So hopefully they just bring in more competent people to call plays because that was something he was very frustrated with throughout the season as well. Not
Yeah,
just
exactly,
people watching the game. So hopefully that does change going forward.
for sure.
And with that being said, that's going to round out the quarterback position for us. And then we're going to move on to the tight end position for you guys. And we're going to start it out with our goodbyes. And to kick that off, we have Mr. Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, our favorite person to talk about.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of a rant. Apologize in advance for this, but I think it's useful to talk about, and also I just need to get it off my chest.
Hmm.
So here we go, Kyle Pitts. He is listed right now as the keep trade cut tight end 1. But his value has dropped dramatically since we saw him at the tight end 1 in the beginning of the season and even last offseason, where, this is going to be arbitrary if you haven't used keep trade cut before, but his value was all the way up in like the 8,000s, I think. Now it's dropped down to like the 6 and 5,000s, which is much more reasonable acquisition cost for Kyle Pitts. But yeah, let's get into my story here. Kyle Pitts is in a bad situation. We all know that. He doesn't have a good quarterback, and the coaching decisions on how to use him should have been considered a crime.
Hmm.
But I have a shit ton of stats to tell you why he's amazing. So here we go. This year, he had a target share of 27.3%. That ranked second at the tight end position. He had an astronomical target rate of 34.3%, which was number one amongst tight ends. He ranked fifth in total air yards despite only playing in 10 games. He also ranked first in air yard share, second in average target distance, and first in deep targets. So, if he's ranked so highly in all of those categories, why didn't that translate to fantasy points? First off, like I said earlier, coaching malpractice. He ranked 19th in snap share and 13th in route participation. So he wasn't on the field enough to begin with, but then even when he was on the field, they were just making him block too much. He's one of the best receiving tight ends and prospects that we've ever seen, and they're making him block. Ridiculous. Also, they didn't use him in the red zone. He ranked 38th in red zone targets and had a red zone target percentage of only 10.4%. For reference, Raheem Mostert, Dante Pettis, and fucking Derrick Henry all had higher red zone target rates than that.
Dante Pettis.
Can you believe that shit?
Dante Pettis.
Dante
That
Pettis.
fucking guy for the Bears?
That fucking guy, yes. And then on top of all that, he had terrible quarterback play. His target quality rating and his catchable target rate both ranked 37th among tight ends. There's 32 teams in the NFL, bro. 37th. That's how bad it was. The bottom line here is that Kyle Pitts is earning targets at a rate that we've never seen from a second-year tight end. And he's earning really valuable targets down the field, which is super rare for the position. But all his talent is currently being wasted by his team. But I, once again, will say let's bet on talent and hope that it works out, because I think that Kyle Pitts is just an absolute unicorn.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen situations in the NFL where like a player has had really bad quarterback play, even some bad coaching, but they've still been able to thrive. Like even DeAndre Hopkins back in his Texans days. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that he could find some way to succeed. But we do need something to change going forward. Also, but I am still confident in Kyle Pitts, the player, as a prospect, because he is one of the greatest prospects we have ever seen. Like ever. Like I don't think you guys realize how crazy Kyle Pitts is as a prospect. Arthur Smith just needs to see it at this point.
Yeah, no, that's facts. I was crossing my fingers because I'm trying to pray it into existence. Please, Lamar Jackson, come to Atlanta. Please, Lamar Jackson, come to Atlanta. That would be so fire.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't want to think about what would happen. Right, I might have to be an Atlanta fan after that, to be honest.
Right,
with you. Yeah,
bro. Make Kyle Pitts the new Mark Andrews. Let's fucking go.
Oh my God. All right.
That's total speculation.
Yeah,
total
before I start, geeking out over here a little bit, we're gonna move on to our cheaper options for the tight end position. We've only got one of them for you. Try to keep it short and sweet for you, but it's Mr. Chig Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans. I'm gonna go ahead and let Eric take this one away. This is his boy for sure. I still like Chig Okonkwo also, but this is definitely Eric's boy, so I'm gonna let him take this one.
Love this guy, man. He's probably my favorite guy on this whole list. Lamar Jackson obviously is up there. I think he's way too. Chig Okonkwo listed as the tight end 13 on Keep Trade Cut. He's somebody that not everybody might know about. If you don't know Chig, he's a rookie tight end out of Maryland who is a size speed freak and a yak god. He's got a bunch of good stats. I have a bunch of good stats for him as well. This year, he had a massive target per route run rate of 33.3%, which was ranked second amongst all tight ends and only behind the aforementioned Kyle Pitts. He also led all tight ends in yards per route run, yards per reception, and fantasy points per route run. Literally number one overall among all tight ends. He's a phenomenal athlete in a play action system that I think suits him really well. And there's virtually no target competition there outside of Treylon Burks. So he's one of my favorite buys on this whole list. I think his opportunity is going to rise dramatically. It's just a matter of time before he becomes a focal point of this offense.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you guys will believe this or not, but Eric knew about Chig Okonkwo before he started to rise to fantasy prominence. Like this was a call that he was kind of soft making before the season even started. That he was talking about this guy, saying like, I hope he gets the opportunity, and he did, and obviously he made a lot of good out of it. So it's one of those cheaper options you go out there if you're looking for a good tight end. And I think going into next year with Tennessee, we're going to see some difference in how these weapons are used now that they know that Treylon Burks is the player that he is, that Chig is who he is. Obviously, Derrick Henry is who he is. The only thing I'm even a little bit concerned about is the quarterback situation, but even still, they were able to get it done last year with Ryan Tannehill. He stands to return next year, most likely too. So, yeah. I think it's a good situation for the both of them.
Hell yeah.
But that is going to round out this video. Guys, stick around because we are going to have another one coming out soon for the running backs and wide receivers. So this is only part one. There will be another part. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like and comment, get all those good things to get us out there in that YouTube algorithm and let you guys know when we're dropping our latest videos. Eric, do you have anything else for the people before we round this one out?
Yeah, thanks for watching as always. And check us out down in the description below. We have the links to all of our other social media accounts, whether that be TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Go check us out over there. We're trying to pump out more content, more short form content, some entertaining things, some useful fantasy information. All it's a mix of things, but I think you'll like it. So go ahead and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that'll do it for us. Again, check out the running back and wide receiver episode that's coming out shortly. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.